to Ghost in the Magazines. I'm Elle.
I'm Jay.
I'm Allie.
And today we're going to talk about Tremors, the original 1990 film that spawned a franchise that includes 7 friggin' movies and a short-lived TV series. This is my nostalgia pick, so I suppose I'd probably better explain myself. So when I was growing up, my mom obsessively read horror paperbacks and watched every creature feature and ghost story that aired on basic cable. And in the early 90s, Tremors was one of her favorites, but it really bothered me. I'd been watching horror movies with her for years, and nothing really shook me. But despite the worms looking like beef jerky trash bags full of clumpy strawberry jam, there was an authenticity to Tremors that really fucked with me. And I didn't really realize what it was consciously until I rewatched it. I grew up in the scrub deserts of eastern Washington in a fairly isolated valley. And I knew a ton of gun nut preppers like Bert and Heather, and had more than one teacher that looked like Nancy, and was related to a whole clan of good old boys that talked and dressed a lot like Val and Earl. It was too close to home. And unlike ghosts and werewolves and Godzillas, I couldn't convince myself that there was no chance that something big and hungry lived underground and was due to wake up from some like crazy billionaire nap. So anyway, I feel like the next order of business is determining what we are calling Kevin Bacon, because I feel like he falls under Daddy Cage rules, and I don't really care what his character's name is. He's Kevin Bacon.
Valentine is such an iconic character name.
Oh, I know, but he's still Kevin Bacon.
I love the name Valentine for a character so much. I'm definitely going to steal that.
How does Val look older than Earl?
Right? Somebody rehydrated the Crypt Keeper and put a fucking cowboy hat on him.
You're right, but ow.
I know, I'm sorry.
Mr. Bacon might hear this.
Kevin Bacon makes a more convincing Nazi in X-Men First Class than he does a heartthrob.
Yeah, it was really confusing to me as to why he was the heartthrob. I suppose blonde and young are really just the only standards for guys in Hollywood.
Did they fall in love off screen? They had one interaction. Her and Earl seem to be more of a thing than Kevin Bacon.
For real.
It's the damsel in distress thing. Their like lives were in danger, and it's that kind of, oh, we survived, let's make out sort of thing.
Yeah, but Earl was there too, and he was the one that was nice to her, and he's not that old. I don't know.
I would 100% take Earl over Mr. Valentine there.
Same.
But Miss PhD maybe just has different tastes. I think
maybe she's just smarter than us.
A geologist student? Was that what she was? Seismologist? She certainly knows a lot about fucking cryptozoology or whatever.
Does it ever get explained where these worms come from?
Well,
the ground, dumbass.
I mean, they appear out of nowhere. It never gets explained why.
It doesn't in this movie. Coming from the things that I've read before, I thought they were like great old ones, but apparently it's explained in another movie, and I ordered the whole box set for this because it was such shit that I have to watch it all, and it's coming to me in the mail. But my mom said in another movie, they explain that they're like cicadas and they wake up every so many billions of years. There's no fossil record of them because they're just old as fuck.
I want to point out that they would still have a fossil record. Like animals that are old and still exist exist in the fossil record.
Well, I know, but you know,
some of them had to die. Yeah, anytime they brought up the term fossil record, no. Also, like the fact that house foundations are fine for this thing, but a rock, many bullets, no. Cement,
it rammed itself into a wall, and that somehow killed itself.
Going real fast, I guess.
Yeah,
but it can go through a brick bunker wall.
Right, it's a fucking bunker. Also, the problem with the gunshots, they put a lot into it before it died, but then their dipshit asses were just shooting it into the ground. What the fuck are you doing? They're like standing on the roof shooting it into the ground.
That was a waste of ammo. Not that they had a shortage.
No, certainly. And the other thing is those freaking bags that they put on there, they're like full of like pipe bombs and ammo and shit, but not any water.
Nope.
The fuck?
Don't need sustenance when you got bullets. I did really love the dialogue and the characters in this, and I just were endeared to them so quickly because, again, like you said, they remind me of the people I know. But most of the preppers I know do still pack some meals, just like some cans, usually something.
Right? He said he had like 5 years of food down there. He was pissed off that they made him leave. Among all of those, you don't have any like lightweight mountain home meals you can just toss into that bag with all the ammo and it doesn't take up much space or weigh much? Really?
camping meals. Like, I guarantee you a
Right.
can of beans weighs less than that box of bullets you got there, bud.
Or like some beef fucking jerky or
Just a
something.
suggestion.
Christ.
Of all the lovable characters in this film, there is one I wanted to personally kill myself, never mind the worms.
Is it the teenage guy?
It's fucking Melvin.
He sucks
Oh,
hard.
He was the biggest shithead.
And every other character in the film agrees with you is the best thing.
Yeah, they all wanted to beat him up, and I would have happily liked to see that on screen.
He was a typical like teenage bad boy for that time period though. If you watch The Burbs, which is another movie from that time period, there's always these I'm a dipshit teenager going to like start trouble with everything and nothing serious no matter what the situation is. And they always undermine in the plot of these movies.
Who was Melvin's parents?
Doesn't
Don't
matter.
know.
Did he just live there by himself in the desert?
He's town ruckus. He's riffraff.
I did like Mr. Chang.
Is that his actual name?
Yeah, Walter Chang.
They did have token Asian man, token Mexican lad. White-blooded Americans are the heroes, of course.
Yes, but they're also idiots.
But like they make a point of saying, well, I guess we can't make fun of Bert's lifestyle anymore. It's
Sort
like
of
there's-
justifying gun hoarding, which isn't great.
Well,
yeah, exactly. That's my point.
there's a couple things to that though. I don't think they fucking ever made fun of it to begin with anyway. And the only thing that really helps out of all of that shit was the pipe bombs, but they were just as easy to kill by just being smart and running them into something.
Or off of something.
Right. Stampede.
Stampede. Ollie, what was it you said to me about the first couple of scenes in this film?
Yes, I do want to credit this movie for within the first 5 minutes giving me the hardest gender crisis ever. Just something about them boys waking up on a dirty ass truck in the middle of the desert, just being bros together. That just straight up triggers something inside of me, and I'm gonna have to think on that for a while.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
It's very that, and I'm ashamed.
Their bromance thing is pretty cool. I enjoyed the
I love the way they talk to each other.
Right.
And then they did the rock, paper, scissors things, and the dummy always loses because he secretly wants to do it. He's stupid.
That's the thing. Whenever they do rock, paper, scissors throughout this film, they always pick the same thing. Kevin Bacon's always paper, and the dude's always scissors.
He's like young and brave and got too much testosterone in him, but in like not a destructive way. Puts it into like hard work.
Can we talk about how, and you guys reminded me of it when you're talking about Kevin Bacon's foolhardiness, when it's decided that Earl's going to go after the bulldozer and Kevin Bacon slaps him on the shoulder and then goes. Why the fuck do they stop running when they see the fucking things coming? It's like, run harder, dude.
I want to say he figured it out, but he really didn't.
Look, I get that you don't want them to hear it, but as close as he was when that tractor tipped over, he could have kept running.
Also, the tractor tipped over, sure, but wasn't the motor still running?
Right, and we saw it eat that fucking generator before too, so wouldn't it still want
And
to
the
eat it?
car. Also, a thing about the Chrysler, it just pulled it down under the soil. It didn't eat the car. Presumably, your woman is still alive in the car.
Yep, I thought that probably would have ran out of oxygen and suffocated. But if not, she would have been in there and they just left.
So, do you guys think the worms are hungry for like human meat, or do you think they're just annoyed at how loud people are?
I think it's a whale thing. They're annoyed at how loud people are, for sure.
I think they're just hunting in general.
Yeah, I mean, if they were annoyed at how loud people were, they would be going after everyone since always, you know? Like, we've always been loud.
But if they
so
are
I
these-
want to believe that because it's a cool story, but they didn't set it up that way, so...
if they are these dune worms, like huge ancient things that only wake every billion or so years, the last time they would have been awake was whenever we had like fucking giant dinosaurs and insects on the land. So they're just going after whatever they sense, presumably.
Usually when there's a species with a long hibernation, there is a reason. There's an evolutionary advantage to being dormant that long and like storing food and not eating for that long. What was so dangerous to a giant earthworm that it had to hide underground for like billions of years?
Also, climates change over billions of years. That wouldn't have been a desert billions and billions of years ago. That would have been like a rainforest.
Ooh, that's a good point.
If there is 5 of them, they're that big and they're coming up to eat after billions of years, why do they leave the farmer's head under his hat?
For dramatic effect.
Yeah, I know that. But I holds in the narrative.
I think they really wanted to put as many dead body shots in this film as they could, legally.
It is PG-13.
But they did it.
I think they had a limit and they were just really wanted to fill that queue.
Nothing looked anywhere
The first
near
body
realistic.
was alright.
Well, maybe the first one.
Yeah, it's kind of okay. He would have been super red.
I think they were only allowed to use a certain amount of blood on screen because you see the bloody sheep everywhere. And then whenever the guy is digging with the jackhammer, when he's doing that, there's like blood oozing up. But anytime after that point, when we see the innards of them, it's orange.
Yeah, that was probably a literal blood restriction. Also, none of the humans bleed except for like some little tiny barbed wire cuts on our female protagonist.
Oh yeah, that was
some
the
like
moment.
cute injuries.
Remember whenever he told her to get her pants off? And then they frame it like it's a real sweet moment where they're whispering to one another. It's like, "Are you okay?" Yeah. And then you realize that it's not because it's them being romantic, it's because they're all having to whisper. I forgot about this, right? They run inside the building to get away from the worm. The worm senses vibrations. So they shit themselves whenever the fridge starts going off and the worm breaks through the floor. What was stopping the worm breaking through the floor before? Because presumably it could still sense the vibrations of the humans moving around.
Dramatic effect.
And if the freezer was an issue, just let them eat the fucking freezer and stay over on the other side and be quiet. If you can just quiet your way out of being noticed by them.
Exactly, yeah.
That's a nice and logical solution.
We are
Doesn't make for a good movie though.
True.
We're finding a lot of issues with this film. We all love it though, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm really looking forward to this being a nostalgia. Like, this is one of the oldies, you know, like to my kids. And they'll be like, wait, Gatorade was in glass bottles?
I hate to break this to you. This came out 30 years ago.
That's old.
It's old.
Yeah,
I was
it's
5 years
actually an
old when
oldie.
this came out, and I'm old as hell.
It's like vintage. Cute.
I was younger than the kid
don't
on the
know
pogo
Elle?
stick.
I was about to say, do you not know Elle was the pogo stick kid?
That's the scene from this movie that gave me nightmares.
Same.
I would have nightmares about that goddamn pogo stick.
That is actually the scene that got me, was the girl in the pogo stick, because that's something that I would have been doing.
You put one kid in a film, that's the only kid the other kids irresponsibly watching had to look for as their kid. I definitely did think there was a dog in this movie, only because all of my nightmares involving the Tremors worm involved a dog. And so I thought I got it from the film.
Well, maybe it was one of the sequels. I think Tremors 2 wasn't that far after this one. 1996.
Is Kevin Bacon also in that one?
I don't think Kevin Bacon was in the second one. Yeah, no, he moved away and married Rhonda. So it's just Earl on a failing ostrich ranch.
Just Earl. No, Earl.
I know the bromance is broken up.
His buddy left him. That's so sad.
Does Earl name his favorite ostrich Val?
And then murder it brutally by the end of the film?
No, he'll hop on the back of it and ride the ostrich.
One more point to poking holes in this movie's plot before we get to the next one. Humans vibrate literally all the time, not just when they're walking. Like a detectable level, especially when someone's really nervous and their heart's beating super fast and breathing and all of that. Everything your body does is vibrations.
As Mr. Chang said, just don't vibrate.
Yeah, he was right. You would immediately die.
And the worms would have picked up on that to some extent if we see the old man that had climbed up that tower. Obviously, they got that he was dead. His vibration stopped. But I mean, the metal would conduct that vibration into the ground more, so they might be able to hear it better or feel it better than a building.
Wouldn't it also have conducted the electricity down? Like, I feel like climbing on that thing would be a detriment to yourself because the worms would try to take it down thinking it was a big predator or a big meal.
Yes, but no, but yes.
But
no.
why did they take the car down and not that?
Maybe because it was making noise?
I do feel like as a director, you should be limited to the camera shot where it's moving as if it's the point of view of the monster, or you should have a visible monster. I don't think you get to have both. If you have that camera that like follows the monster's view or whatever, you shouldn't see what the monster looks like. I think that's better. If you do see what the monster looks like, you don't get that shitty little camera follow. That's weird. We're following the human protagonist. Why give us the point of view of the monster?
I think it worked well as like a little cutaway whenever you could see the soil actually moving sideways. Well, I don't think that one shot where it was going to grab Rhonda's leg as she was closing the door because it was above ground, not underground.
I just think it's a little juvenile looking for a high-class film.
This is not Friday the 13th.
They're calling it a Western-themed monster horror comedy film. There's a very formulaic way to the plot as far as how everything unfolds around the monsters and how the town and all the people kind of come together that you see in a lot of older monster films. But I want to put this point out here, taking a little bit of a pivot, that I wouldn't want to see this completely remade because I feel like as shitty as the monster looks, I like it. it. I don't want to see a CGI version of it.
Oh god, no. That'd be awful.
It would end up looking like that cockroach from the first Men in Black film.
Would you be open to like a remake with just really good and new puppeteering technology to make the worm?
Yeah, or one that doesn't show the worm at all. I mean, I could make the movie poster
Implied
for this.
worm.
Implied worm. Tremors
Yeah,
8.
yeah, I love it.
Implied
I love
worm.
it. So I
Jim
just have
Henson.
such beef. You did your one thing, right? You established your monster. It's a worm, it's in the ground. You can't make another movie and now it has legs. Just make a different film. Just don't make another Tremors movie. Just make a different monster.
That's what you do with sequels, though. You give it hats upon hats. This is...
I hate it.
They do the same thing in TV shows, like fucking Stephen Moffat and Doctor Who completely ruined the Weeping Angels.
Oh, he found a way to talk about Doctor Who, guys.
It's putting hats on hats on hats, and it's a way to ruin a character's mystique. This was probably the first horror film that we watched in a while where I enjoyed just sitting back and watching it and not picking it apart piece by piece, because we tend to do that a lot. And it's not that we're negative about it, it's just that some of the things we watch are horse shit.
Another thing is, I think that the things that we pick apart are taking themselves a lot more seriously than this movie. So the joke's on us already.
Like Splice.
Yeah.
Or that's fucking Evil Within. Yeah.
I, for one, really just enjoy dunking on men's egos as like a hobby. So I really don't mind putting down men who have billions of dollars and can purchase humans if they want to. I have no trouble insulting these men. Just every director ever.
No
and that
white
stays for
yeah.
actors turned producers. Y'all are just as sneaky. Fuck y'all. They make bad decisions because they're all coked up in their room full of editors that disagree with them because they've got the cash. We don't have to discuss the nature of Hollywood.
Any thoughts about the film?
I wish it was gay.
Like, I think the worm should be gay, or would
I think
add.
the movie could have been gayer, yeah.
So, Allie, where would you put this on the scary scale?
As a kid, I would have ranked it like 10 out of 10, 100%. But now on rewatch, I mostly thought just the characters were very endearing and I liked their survival attitude. So like it was four scary. Most of it happens during the day, which is great because you can see, which is pretty rare in horror films. But because of that, everything was happening in broad daylight. It wasn't super scary.
Hey, Jay?
I'd probably put it above Gremlins, but below the Christopher Lloyd scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Fair.
He's Judge Doom or whatever, like the guy that turns out to be a cartoon and then he pulls off the hat and the eyes come bursting out of his head. That, more freaky than worms to me, but the worms are freakier than the gremlins, I think. Elle, what about you?
I'm with Allie, where when I was a kid, this scared the shit out of me. Obviously, it was my pick, so I would have been 10 then. But now, everything is very ridiculous, the way that all of the gore looks, and it's like playing hot lava. I guess that's like a 2, somewhere low on the scale. But it did scare the shit out of me when I was a little kid, I'll give it that. So we'll be back August 8th with The Grudge, which is Steph's pick. Until then, you can find us on Twitter at GITM Podcast. You can find me at Nocturnical.
You can find me at IzzyEXE.
You can follow me at Atlas_Snow.
Okay, bye.